Hey guys, and welcome to the beautiful Netherlands, where we're going to be talking about action games. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while now, but I never really got around to it. And I usually suck at these sort of things. I'm way more of a camera guy, so looking at a screen for me is a bit, I don't know, it's weird. Anyway, got ourselves a nice action gaming tier list. I'm just checking if everything's recording fine. Yeah, should be doing fine. I want to thank Zero Hayabusa for making the tier list for me, because all the lists that I could find were either everything, like way too much shit, or they didn't have like the classics, or like the games that people don't really talk about, or games like Sifu weren't in there at all. I'm going to try and keep this in 1 hour. I'll be doing short little reviews, in my opinion, like on the games. I've separated them, let me minimize this. I've separated them in a couple of tiers. Let me quickly explain what the tiers mean to me so that you can sort of get an idea what I'm going for. S tier, in my opinion, is like the pinnacle. And this is in personal enjoyment as well. Just one small example that I can give already is God of War 1 versus God of War 2. God of War 2 is superior in every way, but I'm probably going to put God of War 1 higher because I just like God of War 1 more. If something like that happens, I'll obviously like talk about it and let my opinion be known. So some of these cases are more like, this is my personal enjoyment and not, I think that game is better than the other one. So S is like the pinnacle. A is absolutely fantastic. B is beautiful, like really good. C is, in my opinion, like a cool idea. It can be a game that has some neat ideas, but I don't feel it's at its full potential. D is not very good. E is terrible. Unexplored is a game that I just haven't played enough to really make a verdict about. And not played is obvious. So with that said, let's get started. I got a big cup of water. And let me just start with, I'm just going to start with some random games first. Let's start with Otogi. He's going to go and not played. And same with the sequel, Otogi 2. One of the reasons I haven't played this one yet, it's actually very simple. The original copies are quite expensive. I'm still a big fan of playing on original hardware, because I feel that's the most, I almost want to say like the vanilla experience. And I know that's a bit ironic coming from someone who plays a lot of Ninja Gaiden 2, but I started Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Xbox 360, and I still feel that if you want to really get to know that game, at one point you got to play it on the Xbox 360 just to sort of experience the insanity where it came from, and then you can always go to the Xbox Series S version. For these games, I'm in the similar route. Like, sure, I can emulate it. I don't think they're backwards compatible, now that I think about it, on the Xbox. I'm not sure. But some of these copies go for like $200, and considering I'm a lazy freelancer, that's not happening anytime soon. Then we've got Near a Tomato, Unexplored. I had to make a choice with this game at the time, because when it released, Neo was also coming out. And I had a choice between literally two of my favorite studios, Platinum Games and Team Ninja. And Team Ninja won. And at the time, I was really happy about it, especially later on when I heard a lot of people talk shit about Near Tomato. I know a lot of people don't like it. I also know a lot of other people do like it. I still want to form my own opinion about it at one point. But yeah, I chose for Neo at the time. I do own the game. I played the demo a lot of times when it hit, and I liked it. But yeah. Another game that's going to go in there is Bugaijin Blade. I think Bugaijin Blade, I hope I pronounced it right, is a really interesting concept. I often bring it up when people say like, oh, Sekiro, it really innovated the world with its parry design, and it's a new take on sword combat. And then I just think to myself, like, Bugaijin Blade. That game came out like a decade or two before, and it had really interesting combat mechanics. A couple of things that I can note about it. that I did like. Like, I haven't finished it. I have the original copy, but every time I play it, something else comes out. Ironically, I just started it again, and then Wulong hits, so I ditched it again. But basically, the way it works is you got these, I want to call them like concentration meters, and you really got to go into a sword fight. So it's more about not really hitting each other, but winning the sword fight and doing specific dodges at specific times to get in a different advantage situation. One thing I also remember really liking is that the platforming in between fights also needs to be done stylishly. Like, you gotta do war runs and everything, because then you'll chain the combat together, like the score. I think that was really cool. Alright, now let's actually, because I saw a lot of ones, I'm probably going to put it unexplored, which I think is a cop-out. Let's just start with one that I feel is really interesting. It's Devil May Cry 1. Now, I'm always doubting between A and S. I'm going to temporarily put it in S. And I'm going to tell you why. I think Devil May Cry 1, despite being, like, it's almost 20, I think it's 20 years old right now. It came out in 2002, I think, or 2001. So let's say it's more than 20, yeah, it's obviously more than 20 years old. Still has one of the best enemy designs in the genre. It's a game that is, it connects more with my personal philosophy of making an interesting set of enemies with an okay protagonist in terms of moveset viability, instead of the other way around. And one thing you'll see more in later games in both the series and the genre is that game designers start to focus more on making your character super interesting and have a ton of options. And Devil May Cry 1 is the opposite. Dante only has a few combat options, but they're all very well designed, both in animation and in interactivity. But the enemies themselves, like the unique weaknesses they have, the way that you have to play around it, especially back then, like right now you can just Google everything. But it's really one of those games I like to call the playground games. And I don't mean that they are a playground, but like you're a kid, you're playing this game, you're in the playground with your friends, and one of the friends says, like, hey, do you know that if you use a shotgun in the back of the blades, you'll insta-kill them? It's like, what? No fucking way. And you go home and somebody else says, like, hey, yeah, I saw my brother, like, he jumps on the spike of a shadow, and it opened him up. I was like, you can jump? You can stand on that thing? Like, that is so cool. I really think that game still sets itself apart in that sense. I'm doubting about putting it back to A now, because there are a couple of things about that I don't like. I think the levels themselves are pretty ass. The pacing is all over the place. Like, it starts off really good with just a fun mixture of exploration and combat, but later on it just becomes annoying. A lot of the secret missions are trash, and though I do like it as a meme, having a boss fight that is a repeat, that summons repeat boss fights, is almost too far. So yeah, it has strong suits in like its character design and enemy design especially. It has sick atmosphere. Like, this is a game I could talk about for days. I always competed with Devil May Cry 3 because those two for me always flip-flop back and forth. I really like Devil May Cry 3. And kind of think of, do I even see? I mean, it should be in here. Obviously it's in here. I'm just blind and can't see it. Is it? Yeah, it has to be, because I see 4 here. So it's probably here somewhere. Like, I'm just a blind asshole. Like, I always doubt with it and 3. Like, one day I like 3 more, the other time I like 2 more. 1 more. No, definitely not 2. So, yeah, give and take. I'll put it in A for now. It's still, one thing I don't like about it as well is more in the public perception of things is how it's always called, like, the progenitor. Like, it's the first one. I don't agree with that. I do agree it's the first one that did it well. Like, I played a lot of action games before Devil May Cry 1 came out, like, retroactively speaking, obviously, to see where a lot of stuff started. Hey, Togi 2 is in there twice. And all those games, like, they control like ass, the camera's bad, the combat is wonky, something's wrong with the lock-on. There's always something going wrong. But DMC 1 just did it all perfectly. Like, it's almost like playing Resident Evil 1 for the first time, when I played that one, like retroactively as well. I started with 4, and then I played all the old ones. And eventually I played 1, like the original. And when you play that game, it's like, how did they do it so well for like the first horror game that they really did seriously? Because obviously there were horror games before it. But DMC is that same magic. Like, it's so well made. I could talk about this game for hours. Anyway, Devil May Cry 2. I'm honestly doubting between C and D. And let me tell you why. The Dante campaign is garbage. Like, if it was just Dante, I would put it in E. Dante is very boring to play as, in my opinion. His weapons hit like a wet blanket. His ranged options are boring as hell. Yes, you can play good with his weapons. Like, if you go for melee combat, there are some interesting things, and I think his machine form is pretty fun. But the enemies are just boring as hell. And, like, you can literally play this game with machine guns. Like, I mean, it's the most boring way, and then it might be a you problem, but it's definitely an issue. What's fun for me in this game is playing with Lucia and with Trish. When I unlocked Trish, because I actually I fucking S-ranked this game on DMD with, I think, both Trish and Lucy. Is it Lucina? Lucia. And then it's actually quite fun. And this is the inverse of Devil May Cry 1. Like, I'm just going to put them together for a second. Don't panic, it's not an A. Here the characters are interesting and the enemies are just mindless blobs. Whereas in DMC 1 it's completely opposite. Not saying Dante's a mindless blob, obviously. But here, like, playing as Trish, you're basically playing as a souped up DMC 1 Dante with some extra abilities, and I really enjoyed that. Beating the Bloody Palace with those overpowered options was quite fun. So, but even then, putting it in C, I think is like, this is like for cool ideas that were good but underappreciated. Right now, it's going to go in D. Not good, not great either. Heavenly Sword. In all honesty, I think this game is the first E one. I hate this title. I don't see the appeal. When I play it, it is mini games, it is bloom, it is lag, it is unresponsive. I really tried to give this game like a chance, but I fucking hate it. I literally fucking hate this game. Cannot get through it. Don't like it. Next one. Maybe we really should go in order. Chaos Legion. Yeah, that's a definite S, otherwise Birdman is going to kill me. That aside, it's going to go in unexplored. My instinct right now is to put it in A or B, but I don't have enough information on this one to really put it anywhere, logically speaking. I like the concept of it. Summoning games are pretty underappreciated in action games. I think it really faltered with its bad marketing, saying like, "Oh, it's just like DMC." I don't know why they did that. Obviously, it would lead to disappointment. But I think it's an interesting game that I really should play more. Transformers Devastation. I think this is a B game. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. And it's also one of those type of games that I wish there were more of. And I mean that in the sense that you have like all these assets. Like, this is a quickly made game. It was like almost like a money grab almost. At least that's the way it came over to me. Like, the B team worked on it, I think. I'm actually not really sure. But it really feels like, okay, we had all these ideas from different games. We're just gonna have fun, you know? It didn't feel like a AAA release where like they had to pull up all the stops. No, this was just Platinum Games having fun, and I think that's really commendable. They also tried that with Korra. Did not go so well. We'll talk about that one later. I think it's here somewhere. And yeah, I like the transformation. I like the fact that you can combine shooting and melee in one singular game. I think the aiming does that very well as well. Like, you got that snappy feel to it. Witch Time feels a bit out of place in my opinion, but Witch Time is Witch Time. It's great. Yeah, I really like this game. I like the music, like the art design. Transformers is always great. Gen 1 is great. So yeah, a really good game. I'll put it in B for now because I don't think it's as good as what's going to be in A and S. We'll just have to see. God of War 1. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I think, now that I look at it, this tier list is not complete. At least I don't even see Ninja Gaiden 2, which can't be correct. Do I see it? Anyway, fuck it. God of War 1, S. I think this is, by and large, one of the best games made. And I mean that in the broader sense of just, not just regular, like, video game, action games, but video games. You've got great story. It's also a story that you might not really feel like right now, but playing it blind, like without any information on the side, like really getting into it. God of War is also twice. Why? Maybe this is God of War 2. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Like, it has great story. Like, it was a mystery. Like, playing that game, like, why is he the Ghost of Sparta? Why does he look that way? Why are the swords chained to his hands? I think the enemies are fantastic. The way you can interact with them is great. I really like the whole orb system, how it works with the executions. Like, you can try and kill an enemy normally, but if you go for the execution, you're only gonna get green orbs, for example. So, if you want upgrade orbs, you kill them normally. If you want health, you kill them for execution. I love how mobile he is. I like the puzzles; they're really well done. Combat variety is okay. Like, you got 2 weapons. I think the Sword of Artemis is more interesting because of the glitches you can do with it than what it actually is supposed to do. Personally, the thing I like about it the most is that when you grab the sword, you become invincible, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, it's one of my favorites. It has a dedicated challenge-driven community. Looks absolutely gorgeous, especially for the time. Like, when you play that game now on a CRT, it still sometimes makes your jaw drop. Like, things that games, like, if you put it next to Devil May Cry, like, you got Devil May Cry, and then in God of War 1, you've got a scene where you're standing on the side of Kronos, and he's walking everywhere. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how did they do this? It's so good. DMC. I'm doubting between B and C. I'm going to put it in C right now. I think this game is overhated. I do understand a lot of the hate that it got because of the way that, like, the social media of the developers was handled. Calling out your fans and calling them nerds is never a good idea. But I do like a couple of things it dared to do, and I'm kind of disappointed that these were sort of lumped with this game and never returned. I liked the new control system. I know it took a lot of getting used to, but I felt it was easier to reach multiple weapons in that way. I was never a fan of the, tap the shoulder button to get to the next weapon in the line, especially in a game like DMC5 where you got like 9 weapons. It confused the fuck out of me. So I kind of like that. Some of the bosses are pretty cool looking. I know Bob Barbas, it's really easy to mention him because he's so cool looking. Well, mechanically speaking, he's boring as fuck. I like the environmental stuff. I like the ring outs you could do. There's one instance I remember, there's a cliff, and I would jump off, and I would use those, I call them shurikens, I think they're called aqua, to pull all the enemies towards me, and I just dash away. And so they're hanging there in midair, and they fall to their death. Fucking cool. Like, it really tried something else, and in some cases it fell flat on its ass. Like, Devil Trigger, all the enemies fly up in the sky. It's weird. Eventually they changed it back. Honestly, I thought it was pretty cool that they tried to do something different, just not everything stuck. Then we're going to go over to Dante's Inferno. I think it's also a C. Maybe a D. Dante's Inferno has, I think, a lot of bad ideas. So it's not a cool idea. I think it's more of a bad idea game. Like, visually speaking, it's beautiful. Especially the first half, where every act is a different layer of hell. And every layer of hell has its unique enemies designed for it and unique bosses. Really cool. and really daring at some points as well. Disgusting. The combat itself, though, misunderstands what makes God of War great, and I need to talk a bit about God of War to explain that. But God of War, mechanically speaking, what lasted that game so long and made it so interesting was the grab mechanic. And I'm not talking about the executions. I'm talking about how Kratos can use his sword, throw it in an enemy, then control him and slam him down in the ground. That's fucking cool. Dante's Inferno doesn't have that. It just has the executions. It tries to pull a morality system in it in terms of upgrades, and it is, in a sense, one of the first action games where your main weapon can be a ranged weapon, like fully ranged with the Holy Cross, which is interesting. But it is just a complete unbalanced mess, and about the second half of the game, it loses all tempo. Like, there are no new enemies anymore. All the layers of hell are just blobs. Especially the last one is literally just a combat arena that just keeps going, which it just sucks. You know, it's so uninteresting near the end. It blows my mind that it feels unfinished. The only thing that I really liked about it in gameplay was you got these relics. I think they're called relics, and you can use these to give yourself different passive buffs. And that was pretty fun. Like, you could sort of make a build on the fly to change your playstyle for a specific situation. And I also want to give a shout out to the final boss. On the highest difficulty, that boss can last up to 15 minutes without any checkpoints. Beating that thing is a nightmare, especially because one wrong move, you're dead. And that boss can teleport behind you and just insta-kill you. I remember doing that, and my wife was sitting next to me on the couch, and I was fucking furious. I remember her looking at me like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not enjoying yourself. You know, do something you like. No, I gotta beat it. Anyway, moving on. Darksiders. I think it was a cool game. More of a Zelda-esque game. But one thing I liked about the combat was about how unhinged it was. Like, you can use all your sub-weapons in the combat. You had jump canceling, you had block canceling. A lot of it didn't feel like it was intended. Like, you could really melt a boss fight with just block canceling your attacks. But it was really fun. I really enjoyed this game. I do have to say it's the only one in the series I gave a proper chance, so I'm going to put 2. And I think I saw 3 here somewhere in not played. I played 2 for like 5 minutes at a friend's house, and 3 sounds cool, but I never gave it the time of day. So I never played that one. So yeah, it is what it is. Let's pick another one. I saw Onimusha, so let's maybe do the Onimusha series. Genma Onimusha is a game. I think it's A tier. It's definitely not as good as Devil May Cry, so I think right now I'm going to put Devil May Cry in S. I think it fits there better. Genma Onimusha is such a good game, though. Warlords, playing it because I played Warlords after. Warlords is okay. It has a couple of cool ideas. I think the Ishin system is really interesting to have, like, this hidden counter-attack mechanic that isn't explained anywhere in the game, but still is like super impactful. But I think Genma really made it like a whole by also giving you the charge attacks. There's extra content. You can skip cutscenes. Finally, just such a good game. So enjoyable. The pacing is great. It's a game I would replay for like hours. Like, you can beat it in 2 hours in one sitting. Just go. One element of it that I really find interesting, though, is the green orb. And to sort of iterate, like, the green orb enemies, and I think it's random, I don't really know what triggers it, will drop a green orb, and the orb will then fly around. You can absorb it by holding X. Okay, that's fine. Enemies can also absorb the green orb. So what happens is you have to mash X, I think, to absorb it faster than them. But while you're doing that, you can't do anything. You're vulnerable. So you might have to reposition and to get the orb. Now, if you have 6 of those orbs, you can activate a super mode, and you become invincible for, I think it's like 10 seconds or something. But if they get it, they become a buffed version of themselves, which is fucking cool. So there's this constant back and forth dynamic with the green orbs that even if you have a fight like totally planned out, it can go sideways as all hell, which is super cool. I really like that. Alright, there's another Onimusha here. I think that's really cool. Also, that Isen also is a counter hit that nearly insta kills, basically always insta kills, and also gives you bonus orbs. Is really cool, so it can really reward you with high risk, high reward. Because if you miss, you're basically dead. Really fun game, fantastic. Also like the Dark World-esque combat arenas. Some of the later enemies are a bit annoying. Like you got this guy who can teleport around, and you basically just have to hold block for a long time. But yeah, really good game. Just a great adventure game too. Highly recommended. Onimusha 2, I would say goes in B. I think Genma, I can already spoil that, is the best in the series. And after that, it all went downhill in my opinion. Onimusha 2, it makes Isen easier, but it also adds more characters. It has a completely insane flowchart of how the game can go with making gifts for other playable characters to make them like you more, different relationships. It's an insane game. Insanely complex in terms of world building. I think if I really get into this game, I might like it more. But right now, I think it's less than Genma because I just haven't played it as much as Genma. I think Onimusha 2, if you bought it at the time, it could be one of those games, if you know what I mean. It could have been one of those games you bought that game and you would play it for years and you still would not have seen everything. And I think that's really commendable. Then we've got Onimusha 3, and I think this one's really bad. I always want to put it in D. I did not enjoy this one. I think playing as the Jagarano, I think that's interesting, but Samanosuke's moveset, it was just not as interesting as before, in my opinion. It was cool to see him again, but everything from the bosses to the levels to the story, it just did not connect with me at all. One very weird thing that stood out to me, and I'll always remember, is that there's a forest scene that uses music from Resident Evil 4. It uses the stealth theme. It's super weird to play that game and suddenly hear that theme song. Then we've got Onimusha 4, and that's going to go in unexplored. I think this game, when I played it, and later on I would play Neo, and Neo really reminded me of Onimusha 4 in terms of how it handles loot, leveling, and everything. The intro sequence of this game alone blew me away when I played it. It was so cool, and chaining Isen, really doubling down on Isen, seems like a really cool idea. I do feel that it might have been too much of a crazy leap, but right now I'm going to put it in here because I simply haven't played it enough. I only played a couple of stages, and I did like what I saw, but it wasn't the perfect... it just wasn't there enough for me yet. Let's start with sort of home in on Transformers Devastation a bit and talk about Legend of Korra. I think this one's also going to go in D for me. Maybe lower end of C. I almost want to say let's make a C minus. I think it's definitely better than Dante's Inferno and DMC1, but I think it's also just not really well made. And a lot of times when this game is mentioned, the only thing that comes to mind to me is why not play something else that's better and does exactly what it wants to do, but better? Or, why even play this game? I think this game and DMC, though, DMC, I think they're both good, how would you call it? Like baby's first action game. I think they're really good games to get started with. I recommended DMC once to a friend who wanted to get started with these types of games, and he really enjoyed it. And the same with Legend of Korra. I have my nephew play it once, and he really enjoyed it because he likes the show as well. Obviously, I think the style switching is really cool. Did not mind the minigames, and it's still a complete action game. It has unlockable costumes and everything. The movesets look really cool. There's some cool stuff you can do with it, but it also feels weirdly limiting at times. So yeah, I'm going to put it in a C. I think it's an interesting title, but nothing more than that. Speaking of interesting titles and nothing more than that, Castlevania. Yeah, this game is fun when you're good at it. Like, your first run, at least for me, my first run was just boring as fuck. Like, you're constantly fighting way too strong enemies that you don't know how to handle, don't know the movesets of. But once you know the movesets, once you know when to use your meter, and like which one of the meters to optimize, your sub weapons and everything, once you really get into that, it's a really fun game. And just, especially in the early game, it's just too boring for me. It's more of an adventure game, like with all the exploration, you can do side objectives of each mission. I know that Big Benedict, a guy I used to talk to a lot and who always inspired me to start Stinger, he really likes this game. I know for him it's like one of his favorite games ever made. I really tried to like it. There's a couple of things I really enjoy about it. If it just had a bit more combat options that weren't just hit enemy until you use power move, it would be higher for me. But so far, like, it's a good game. Like, I would put it. I'm not really doing internal tiers right now, so like this is all just equal in my opinion. But I do feel it's the best of the bunch, like of these. Like, maybe I should also organize that a little bit, but we'll talk about that. Alright, let's talk some weird ass shit. Let's talk Knack. I think Knack is B. Knack 2 is one of those games that really suffers from meme lords that made the meme of, oh, hey, Knack, because of Donkey. This game really surprised me. The combat options you have are just insane. That you can shrink on reaction to like a smaller form to dodge blows, grow again. That's super cool. You have grab, you have stunning boomerangs, you've got backflips. Every time I play this game, I'm like, how cool is this? Like, it really plays like this old style PlayStation 2 game with a really unique quirk, which is the growing and shrinking mechanic that you can do. It keeps building up to like this scene where you're playing as a giant Knack, which is really fun. But there's also segments where you play as a little Knack, and you have to do self segments and stuff like that, or you can just do combat. I really enjoyed this game. I think it's really fun. It might be like top C or low B, but I'll put it in B for now. Alright, let's talk DMC, because I kind of want to do DMC 3, but I can't find it. So I'll just do, okay, let's do God of War first. I'm just going to assume this is God of War 2 and put it in A. I think God of War 2 is really good. Objectively speaking, it's the best one. It has the most weapon diversity, the best bosses, the best set pieces. I just feel 1, because it was first, did it all better or more unique. 2 really feels like this masterpiece where they sort of perfected what they wanted to do. It also plays like a dream. It looks so insane. If you just imagine, because the PlayStation 3 was already out, I think, when this game hit. It was like the last PlayStation 2 game, and it looks that way. Like, it's super good. Don't have a lot of other things to say about this. Like, the content is insane. Like, with all the costumes you have, you can do an Athena playthrough. It's just crazy. So good. Please play this. Then we get to God of War 3, which I think is B. I think God of War... no, A. I think A. I really like God of War 3's Battering Ram edition. I think that's super cool. Really fun move. But I don't like a lot of the sub-weapons they added. I also feel it became a bit too cinematic at times. Like one thing I really liked about 1 and 2 was you still had a lot of regular combat encounters. And in 3, those really take a backseat. Like, it's either an epic encounter or a super epic cinematic encounter. And nothing really in between, more often than not. So for me, it's really good, but I might put it in B. Definitely a beautiful game as well. And then we have God of War Ascension. I saw it here. Yeah, God of War Ascension. Like, that's D. I'm sorry. Like, I really want to like this game, but it feels like right now you have that AI discussion where Biden and Trump talk about Kingdom Hearts. And they said like, oh yeah, Biden said something like, oh, Kingdom Hearts 2, just puts chess right in the open, right? Like a real brain buster, really making you work for those. That's Ascension. Like, this is the game where you can go right for the progression and left. You can even see the chest. You don't even have to go to left and then you find the chest. No, you can see the right path and the left path. Oh, there's a chest. Walk to the chest, open the chest, walk away. That is about the level of complexity this game has. You have a freezing move that barely freezes. Like, by the time your animation is finished, the freeze is over. It has some cool enemies. I think the stages are really well and smartly designed, especially I think it's Apollo, the giant Apollo statue that you have to climb to light the lantern. Super cool enemies as well. But like, the gameplay is glitchy as fuck. You can really see they had divided attention between the multiplayer and single player. I never played the multiplayer. So yeah, I'm putting it in D for now. I really feel this is where the series killed itself. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, it died because people got tired of square, triangle, or tired of QTEs and Kratos and blah, blah, needed rejuvenation. No, it was just a bad game. I'm sorry, it was just a bad game. So, yeah, I hate what this game stands for. I like a couple of things it did, like the tether that you can now do with enemies is fun. But this is also an example of like, let's gate half your moveset behind a meter, which is basically a no damage run. But they are not new moves, they are your old moves. Like, it's so stupid. The more I talk about it, the more I want to put it in E, but I'll put it in D, realistically speaking. But this game pisses me off. Let's see, Shinobi. I want to put this in S, but I just can't. I put it in A. I think Shinobi is one of the most unique action games out there. It's super special. It oozes style. And I hate it. And what I mean by that is, I don't like the stages at all. I don't think there's any real level that I fully enjoy, where I both enjoy the level itself and the enemies and the bosses. I like the whole concept of it. I like the EX stages more, because they're more level, like laser focused. And the first few stages are interesting because it's still a bit like the mixture of combat and platforming. While later on it just becomes like this, like all the enemies are more designed to be annoying than challenging. And I think that's because, and this is understandable, like a lot of these enemies, the entire premise of this game is that you need to fill your tate. So if you don't kill enemies fast enough, you're going to die yourself. So the entire point of enemies is not to kill you, but to slow you down. And you notice that. Like, there are little birds that shoot fireballs, constantly flickering around, and you can hardly get to them. It's just fucking annoying. The final boss has got to be the most PTSD-inducing son of a bitch I've ever fought. Like, Jesus Christ. Every time I reach that guy, I'm like, oh god, here we go. Oh, I really don't like him. So yeah, mechanically speaking, it's an S, but it has too many annoying parts for me to be an S. But it is a game that is always on my mind, and always when I play it, I somehow want to stop playing it, but keep playing it, if you know what I mean. It's really hard to put into words. What isn't hard to put into words is Kunoichi and how bad it is. Goes into D. Kunoichi, also known as Nightshade, is basically Shinobi, but they took away all the cool shit. Like, the levels are even worse. They're very boring now, almost only cityscapes. I like the music though. But one of the things that I really liked about Shinobi was that it was so compact. Like, you only had a few moves, and you had to use all those moves to survive. And in Nightshade, they add like a juggle, they add a ground pound, they add shielded enemies that you need to break their shields, and it just tries to iterate by adding more shit, and as a result, it becomes lesser. Ironically speaking, it has the coolest stage I've ever seen, that I feel some developers are even trying to imitate at times, which is, you start off on this like stealth fighter that's going through a city upside down, and you're fighting against a robot ninja. I mean, that's fucking cool, but it's not enough to save it, so it's in D. Beautiful Joe. I want to put this in A. I think Beautiful Joe is so good. Again, with the enemy design, the meter management, all the stuff you can do is just really cool. I haven't played this game enough to really... it's been a while since I played it. I think like 5 years ago since I last touched it. But it's brimming with content. You've got so many playable characters. The bosses are cool. It's a game that really allows for creativity. One thing I really love about it is how you can launch enemies and then knock them further. Like you can use them as like projectiles. Just like in God Hand. Is God Hand here? No, I don't see it. Zero, what are you doing? Where's God Hand? That's on me too, because he asked me, is there any game missing? I'm like, oh shit. I assumed God Hand would be in there. Anyway, like in God Hand, you can launch enemies and then punch them around, and they'll be used as projectiles. A tank can shoot a bullet at you, and you can reflect it back. It's a game that allows for a lot of creativity in that sense. One thing I really liked was when I found out you can do a high jump, and then when you fall down, you can use zoom in and slow-mo. So when you land, you create a shockwave, but you use slow-mo on the shockwave, so it deals damage constantly. There's all these wacky interactions that are just really fun. Like you can speed up when you're, I think, on fire to make the fire go away. Just a lot of fun. Beautiful Joe 2, I haven't played, so I can't comment. Anarchy Reigns also goes in unexplored. I played it a bit. Not the single player, only did some multiplayer. I almost wanted to put it in S for the soundtrack alone, which is just so fucking good. I played that so many times. Mad World, never played it. Sounds like a fun game though. Here's going to be a heresy thing. No More Heroes, never played it. No More Heroes 2, never played it. Yeah, I never played any of these games. Genjin, never played it either. Does sound really cool. I think we're mostly left with games that I have played. So, time for the interesting shit. Doom S. So good. It boggles my mind how good this is. Doom 2 is here too. Okay, also. Now, Doom 2 goes in, we'll talk about that in a second. Doom, like the level design, the enemies, it's like this game where all the weapons work together, all the enemies work together. They're still making maps for this game. It is incredible. Like, I still want one day there to be an action game that does what Doom did. And I mean, like they make this perfect set of enemies and set of weapons and protagonists that work so well together that you can basically just give a map editor to people and they can make levels for their entire life. Yeah, just so good. I also really like the episodes in here. Episode 1 is really good. Episode 2 is okay, but 1 is just perfect in terms of pacing. Also the usage of all the elements of the game, just so good. Episode 3 for me was really bleh. I actually looked it up before this video because I totally forgot what episode 3 was. Episode 4 took some choices. I think the first level is just memorable because it's so difficult. And the second level is memorable because John Romero made it in, I think, like a day. And you notice it because it's completely crazy, but it's still very creative. So it's a really good game. Doom 2, this is going to be like the hardballer. Doom 2 without Map Maker is C, in my opinion. With Map Maker, it's S. The Doom 2 levels are trash. The levels it comes with are so bad, it boggles my mind this was shipped. I think they are absolutely garbage. There's a couple of missions that might be considered decent, but overall I think they're all just trash. I finished the campaign once and I'll never do it again. But the missions themselves that you can make with it, because it has the expanded enemy roster and everything, is really good. But I'm going to put it in B. And one thing I really want to say is, and this is going to be sacrilege, I think the super shotgun was not necessary. I think it's super cool. It's still the best shotgun in everything, like in terms of sound, in terms of how many kills it makes and everything. But it doesn't add anything. We already had a super weapon. We already had a shotgun. I really wish they'd done something else with the weapon. And I also feel a lot of the new enemies aren't that interesting. I know a lot of people like the Archvile. I don't really like them. I really hate the... what are they called again? Those things that spawn the little heads. I forgot the name, but I hate those guys. Chain gunners are fun. And... fuck, I'm really bad with it. Revenants. Revenants are cool too. So yeah, maybe A. I'm gonna put in A, because like it's still, technically speaking, you'll always play 2 because 1 is superseded by it for map making stuff. But I just feel it's not as good as people make it out to be as a standalone product. Then we got Doom 3. Oh boy. This is S. I really like Doom 3. And this is one of those cases where it's really like, this is my personal preference list. Like, objectively speaking, this should be in B. Maybe even C. Because it does a lot of things bad. Like, in terms of the weapon balance, in terms of enemy designs, in terms of combat design, I mean. So not the visual design. Because the visual design is fantastic. I mean, this version of the Baron, or the Hell Knight, is still being used. It's one of the only things they copied over to Doom 2016. It's so cool. But what I really like about it is, like, this game brings me back to when I was a kid. Because when this game came out, everybody was talking about it in my school. A friend of mine had it on his computer. He was the only guy who had a computer that could actually run the damn game. And Jesus, like, it was so scary playing it as a teenager. We skipped school to play this game. And still, when I play it, it has this visual raw look that only a game from that era can have. I think the lighting is fantastic. If you play this game, don't play BFG. Play the original with the flashlight. Because the idea that you're constantly checking your flashlight to see where things are is super cool and interesting. It's very tense. There's a lot less ammo in that version. BFG edition is just, it plays itself almost. So I would not recommend that one. But yeah, really cool game. Doom, I want to say 2064, but 64. Unexplored. Have not played it enough. I haven't even finished it. Doom 2016. This is B. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really good game. I think it's, like I said, B is for beautiful. I think it's a really good game. I like how it tried to modernize it. It doesn't feel like Doom for me, though. When I play it, it reminds me more of just a linear action shooter. Like, you go from arena to arena, even though it's less so than the later game. There's still some smaller fights and everything, and I like the exploration. But I think if they had done it more like an episode-based, that you can also do pistol starts and everything, would have been more interesting to sort of home in on that original feeling. I think the bosses are pretty trash. But it really started something. Like, I think the flow that you could get into it was really cool. And I remember I played it originally and I liked it, and then I saw a speedrun at QuakeCon where a guy is doing all these weapon switches and it's playing like, it's almost like a DMC game. And that blew my mind. Like, it was so cool. So I almost want to put it in A. Yeah, I'm going to put it in A with Doom 3. Like, these two are really good. Then we got Doom Eternal. This is going to be the controversial one. This is lower than both. I think this is the worst Doom game. I think this game is great on your first playthrough when you're new to it and you're really trying, like, oh my god, like, I gotta play the cool way to have fun. And then you want to experiment, and this is where the game starts to falter. Like, I feel a lot of the sub-weapons are trash. A lot of the regular fires are also trash. Like, there's only a couple of weapons that really feel good. And the game constantly forces you, like, not like entices you to play differently, it forces you to play differently. And that's what I don't like. This is a game basically existing out of color-coded enemies in a sense. And I don't like that. I don't like that the game is like, okay, so previously you had the chainsaw to get ammo, now that's the only way. It's like, okay, but first it was an option, now it's a must. And technically speaking, that's not fully true. Like you can still play with just a super shotgun if you wanted to. It's just a bit harder. But I feel like in Doom 2016, like the creativity came from me, whereas in Doom Eternal, it came because the game kept telling me to, and telling me how to. I do like a lot of things that it tried, like the environmentals kills that it has were really cool. I think it's pretty weird and brave that I tried to mix up like this sort of arcade aesthetic with the Doom style. It didn't always work, but sometimes it did. I think the DLCs are really good. DLC 1, especially the original version, because eventually they nerfed it in patches, but the original version is fucking good. Really challenging, really hard. Second DLC is interesting. I think what was the first mission again? I only remember the Uncharted stage of the second DLC. Oh, wasn't the first one the... No. Okay, I totally forgot what the first stage was from the second DLC. Doesn't matter. Okay, this is annoying. 1 second. This I gotta look up. Doom Eternal DLC 2 stages. Ancient Gods Part 2. Levels. There we go. World Sphere. Oh yeah, World Spear. Yeah, I remember that one. That one was pretty cool. Reclaimer was cool. This one was ass. And then you had the Dark Lord final boss. Yeah. Yeah, like part 1. What missions did part 1 have? Levels. Atlantico was so fucking cool. Bloodswan was really cool. What was the Holt? Barely remember this stage. Oh, I remember this one, yeah. Yeah, this one was pretty cool too. Blood Swamps is one of my favorite stages. Like, they really tried to do a lot of weird shit there. And Atlantica was really cool too. Like, they really tried to push it further. So yeah, I think that game really... the DLC is elevated, but I still don't like the whole gameplay loop thing. It really feels like I've got fucking Hugo Martin next to me shouting in my ear, like, switch weapons, be cool! I have much more respect for a game that has those options but allows me to find them myself and build my own playstyle. Wonderful 101. Oh man. Yeah, see. Sorry, I don't like this game at all. It might have the best combat mechanics ever made, but this game puts me to sleep. Everything from the mini games to the collectathons to just... I don't like it. I've really tried to like it. I finished it a couple of times on my Wii U because I bought a Wii U for this game. I was a Kickstarter backer. I got the Switch version. I got my keychain. And I still don't like it. I even got the Steam version. I keep buying this game, but I don't like it. I should. Like, I like the subject material. I like the combat idea. But I don't like the enemies. I don't like the gimmicks. I don't like the puzzles. I like nothing. Like, anything it does, I don't like. So yeah, I really want to like it, but I just can't. I tried it so many times. Sorry, it's in C for me. I know for a lot of people it's an S. It's their most enjoyable games. Like, I've talked to many veteran players. Like, can you show me where the fun is? And then they would show me, and I would try it, and it would not click. So this is one of those cases where a game just does not click with me. Bayonetta 1. If you would have asked me last year, it would be in B. I think it's an S. Like, this game is so insanely good. I liked it a lot more starting when I started my Jean playthrough and played with her. Starting to toy with the different weapons and everything. It's so good. Like, the enemies are great and the mini games are annoying, but eventually you just... Like, I'll just platinum those stages once and be rid of them. I also like that this game technically has a rank you can never achieve, which is the pure platinum. Obviously, there are people that have a pure platinum, but nobody's ever done it legit, I think. Like, everybody just goes into a fight. Oh no, like, I got hit. Time to, what do you call it? Hit the restart button. Or they'll use the butterfly accessory. Like, the challenge to get a pure platinum is there. it's just a challenge from Platinum Games to you. Like, you want to do it? I mean, it's probably fucking impossible, but, you know, go ahead. I still not found a single person that has gotten a pure Platinum run without restarting or doing butterfly shenanigans. I know there's one of Angel Slayer, where a guy beats Angel Slayer, but he uses the butterfly and a couple of glitches, especially in the final boss, because he even said, like, it's impossible to do it. I fully understand. Like, you're doing, like, a 1 hour long survival marathon, and then at the end you gotta fight, like, the final boss 3 times at the same time. Like, it's crazy. Alright. Yeah, so that one's an S. Bayonetta 2 is an A. I still like this game a lot more than a lot of people do. Mechanically speaking, it's a step back, and especially in terms of enemy reactions. Even the parry aside that enemies do, like, a lot of stuff just feels off. But I like the weapon creativity. I like how creative they got with the boss fights. They really tried to push it further, visually speaking. Like, the bow is cool. The poison arrows are cool. A lot of enemies are really weird. Like, the sloth is just, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, that guy is so annoying. It's a crazy game, but it's fun. I enjoyed it. Being able to lay down morph ball bombs, I mean, just a fun game. Bayonetta 3 goes in B. I think it's a good game. I just don't think it's as good as the previous ones. I think it has a couple of cool ideas, but this is really one of those games where I feel like you had to dedicate more, you know? If they would have dedicated more resources and time to it actually being a summoning game. Like, it's really, everything is about the summoning. Instead, it feels like you're playing a shitty version of Bayonetta 2 with summoning attached. Well, it should be the other way around. It should be like summoning is the main focus point. I hate all the mini games. I hate the kaiju battles. I hate the singing mini game. There's so much shit in this game. Replaying it really put me to sleep. It's one of the only action games on this list that I have and sold. Because I bought it new and I just did not. Every time I wanted to replay, I was like, "Oh, fuck this shit! I'm not replaying this." So yeah, that game goes over there. I liked it, but it's not great. Astral Chain S. Do I need to say anything? Like, beat the game because it's trash. Like, the first time you play this game is trash. But when you beat it, oh my god, like, then it opens up. Like, you got all the, what do you call them? Drives? No. Fusions? No. Fuck. Slaves? No. Definitely no. What are they called? Like, the weapon arts? The weapons? You got sword. Okay, I'll just call them weapons. You got all your summons. That's it. You've got all your summons at the end. And then it becomes cool. You got all the summons. You got 70 plus challenge maps. That's fucking insane. And it just opens up. And then you got all the shit that you can do. All the secret bosses and secret fight. It's so cool. And the interactions you can do. This game is the opposite of Doom Eternal. Like, in Doom Eternal, it's like, we want you to play this way. And Astral Chain is like, here's just a fucking... We put in every mechanic we ever made into this one game. Have fun. Like, like, you can do bullet, blade mode from Metal Gear Rising with the sword summon, and then he can have summoned swords like Virgil. You can just stand next to an enemy, and the swords will keep hitting him because you're in time slow. And you can just stand there forever, basically, and watch him die, as long as you got meter, obviously. And the game allows it. It is just, like, it felt like the greatest hits album or something. Everything you can do this game is insane. Every time you think you've seen it all, you're just like, okay, but what if I do this? And it's like, it works. Okay. Enemies might not be the best. And I think it's a bit of a mistake to give you a summon that basically makes you invincible, which is the wolf. But even then, like, this game has so much shit. Like, it's a game you can play forever. I think a lot of people don't give this game the love it deserves. Metal Gear Rising. Yeah, this is top of A. I think I'm going to move Bayonetta 2 to B and Bayonetta 3 to C. I think that's better. Because I like Wonderful 101 more. So let's put it like this. Metal Gear Rising, one of the first action games that I really made my own. So it's got a bit of a personal touch for me. Like with all the other action games, especially Ninja Gaiden at the time in DMC, like I was a latecomer. Like Ninja Gaiden was already out, Ninja Gaiden 2 was already out, Sigma 2 was already out, DMC 3 was already out, and Metal Gear Rising I was playing from the start when it released. And I'll never forget, I was on GameFAQs and all those forums, and I was doing upgrade runs and challenge runs because I was just having so much fun with this game. And I remember people posting like, "Oh my god! Like I just got the platinum." And I was not even interested in the platinum. I was just playing, and having so much fun with this game. I like how different it is from all the others. Like it really doesn't have an established formula. I think Blade Mode is really interesting. I think they could have done more with it if they had more time. Like you can really deal in enemies to change their state and make them do different things. But yeah, it's really fucking cool. I don't like some of the fights. Like their first Ray fight is a bit boring. Like obviously music wise it's intense, but yeah, it's not as good as people make it out to be in that sense. It's also way too short. Stage 5 I think it is basically not a previous stage. Like you got like a 3-hour game and one of your stages is a previous stage backwards, which is crazy. And another stage is just a boss fight, and the final stage is one room and a boss fight. So like the game definitely shows that it's a rush job, but it has so much cool shit. I just really love this game. I could always play it. It's also one of the games where I got a couple of those world first challenge runs, which was really fun for me. And it was also a game that taught me a lesson, which is I often pair with this game, which is Killer is Dead, which I'm going to put in B because I think Killer is Dead has a couple of cool ideas, especially in terms of meter management. But Killer is Dead for me is really a game where I learned my lesson. Because after Metal Gear Rising, I decided like I'm going to be number one. You know, I want to be the best at everything, best at every action game. Because I was a dumb teenager, you know, still am. And Killer is Dead, I wanted to become number one in the leaderboard, so I was constantly fighting against this one Chinese guy. And there were a couple of guys between us, but they just played more than me. And this game suddenly taught me, like, why am I wasting my time on a game that I think is fun, but I'm not having any fun, you know, because I was just grinding out the same stage to get a bigger high score on it. And it was at that point I realized, like, let me just play games that I enjoy, and in a way that I enjoy it. So for me, that game is really important in that sense, combined with Metal Gear Rising. Because I was thinking back to Metal Gear Rising, I was not playing that game to make a high score, you know? I was playing it because I enjoyed it so much. I do not see DMC3 either. Let's do Neo. Neo and Neo 2, I'm just going to do them together because they're very similar. They're both an A for me. I think 2 is better than 1 because it's basically like this insane expansion pack to 1 with a couple of neat additions in terms of the summoning spirits and the transformations that you can do. Sick game. Fucking cool. I always describe this as a action maker, like make your own action game. With all the stats and all the weapons and all the spirits that you have, you can literally turn this into anything. Like you want to be a parry-focused game, fuck it, go ahead. It can be that. You want to turn it into a shooter? Well, sure. Get a bow with infinite arrows, get a ranged arrow spirit, and it's like you can do whatever the fuck you want with this game. It can be anything. I think that's super cool. I think that's super cool. So yeah, I like really interesting game. Neo 1 at the time really blew me away as well. I think the most memorable thing for me from Neo 1 was eventually they made a patch. I think it was 1.7 or something. It just sticks in my mind. And they just added some super missions, some side quests. And one of those was like this giant fucking mess where people started, like you got ambushed from all sides. There were so many waves. And one of them was where in co-op you had to fight like 3 bosses at the same time, which really was reminiscent. Let me turn on the light a little bit. Whoa, now I'm really yellow. Holy shit. That's better. Where you had to fight 3 of the bosses at the same time, really give you that Ninja Gaiden Sigma feeling. super cool. And I still remember there was a big discussion about it on Neo's forums, because on GameFAQs, like a lot of people that played Neo, they were From Software boys, and the Ninja Gaiden boys tended to be like 5 or 6 of them. And suddenly the Neo From Soft boys, they were like, "What the fuck is this insane bullshit? This is not fair." And the Ninja Gaiden boys were like, "Hey, that's our shit," you know. And that was fucking funny. I still remember one of those topics where the one guy, he just loses his mind. I've never seen a guy on the internet so angry at me for just saying like, "Hey, bro, this Team Ninja game, it's fucking insane. Don't you love this shit? This is why I play this shit." He just called me an asshole and everything. Eventually, I remember we talked about F-Zero. I don't know why I remember that, but like these games are so good, so fucking good. Should make a jump to Wulong. Obviously, it's going to go unexplored since I haven't played it enough. But so far, Wulong is really good. I like the momentum of it. I like the movement you can do with your weapon skills. I think it's held back by like the 1v1 lock-on that Neo has, and the weapon arts being tied to stats. I think that really holds it back. Alright, Vanquish, S tier, probably at the top. One of my favorite games of all time. If you want to know why I love it so much, I got an article on it, but it is just, it's fun! This game is so fun! Like from all the meter management stuff, to the enemies, to the con... I can't even put it to words. Like, this game is just fucking fun. Like, if I have to put it, like, personally speaking, what I really like about it is that you push yourself. Like the suit. Like, you got this energy bar, and when it runs low, you're basically dead. So you really try to inch out, like, at the very last pixel, like, get all the juices out to be as offensive as possible. The only limitation in this game is you, as the player. Like, that's it. Like, you can be God if you want. Like, it's so insane. I love this game with a passion. I love how it also combines stylish action with efficiency. Like, you can be efficient in this game and still look sick as hell. I think that's super cool. Turtles, have not played that. Zone of the Enders 1. This is a D game for me. I think it has some interesting ideas, which we'll get to in a second. But from the one-note combat to the weird leveling, the weird bosses that don't really make any sense, to the final segment literally being like a bomb defusal mission, the weird stealth segment-esque thing where you control a raptor, the cutscenes that look absolutely god-awful. I don't like this game. I finished it once in like an afternoon and called it a day. I think the worst thing about this game is that because of this game, a lot of people won't play the second one. Because the second one is S tier as well. One of the best action games ever made. One thing that's really great about this game is like the 3D movement, because you're really moving a 3D space up and down, left and right. Paired with the sub-weapons that all have such a unique use and interaction with enemies. This game has a sort of internal logic that never falters. Like, for example, you've got mummy heads, which are healers. And inside the mummy head is a raptor, which is your basic enemy. Now, if you kill the mummy head, normally he'll just explode. But if you kill him by knocking him into a wall, the mummy head shell explodes and a raptor comes out. Now, you can use this because there are respawners that will respawn the mummy head if you kill him. But if you don't kill him but just destroy the shell, he won't respawn. So you can kill the mummy heads to just have raptors on your ass and then just do whatever the fuck you want. But for example, there's a weapon called the Gauntlet. You can knock enemies back and they'll fly into a wall. And that way you can disable it. Like, I don't know, there's just so much shit. Another example, Geyser. You can Geyser enemies. Geyser is like a stun. But the Geyser is like a sort of a virus as well. So when you grab an enemy that's Geysered, because they're open now, so you can grab them, and you hit enemies with them, they'll also get infected by the Geyser, so they'll be stunned as well. Like, I can keep going. Like, you can put down a fuck bomb. I call them fuck bombs. It's an F bomb. I think it's called like floating mine, but I call them fuck bombs. And then you can put a decoy there, and then fly away, and enemies will go to the decoy to try and destroy it, and they'll just go into the mine. Like, there's so much fun shit you can do. It's also short as hell. I think it's like 2.5 hours. And what I really, really appreciate is that every fight is unique. Like, there is no repeat fights or fights that are just filler. Like, every fight is either a unique enemy combination or a unique situation combination. So, like, you have to escort an ally out of, like, a volcano-esque reactor, or there's a train escort mission, not escort, train destruction mission, actually, where you're in this giant, fast-going hallway. There's a minefield, there's a giant battle, there's a cityscape you need to explore. I actually made a list, it's in my article, I think, but every fight is unique. Like, there's not a single fight that's a repeat, or just the same fight but differently. Super cool. One of the best action games I've ever played. Play it. Please play it. It's so good. Don't play 1. 1 is bad. I don't like 1. Play 2. Zone of the Ender, second runner. Let's try something else. For some reason, Ninja Gaiden 2 is missing, which is heresy, so I'm just gonna pretend that this is Ninja Gaiden 2, okay? Okay. So this is Ninja Gaiden 2. Get it? Don't go flipping out and saying, like, what the fuck, what's he doing? Okay? Ninja Gaiden Black. A tier. I want to put more to the left, but I can't. Ah, there we go. Ninja Gaiden Black is one of the best games ever made. It is, by and large, the most finished action game I've played in my life. Like, in terms of content. Like, you've got, 30 submissions to fight? Lockable costumes, secret weapon, secret bosses hidden in higher difficulty modes, great world to explore, great enemies to fight. It's just so good. Like, everything about this game is great. The weapon variety is a bit lacking at times, with a lot of weapons just being the dragon sword with minor changes, or a big sword with minor changes. But yeah, a really great game. I've talked about this game at length for so many times, but I think what this game does really well is it makes you feel like you've earned every victory. Especially when I went back to it later on and I played it on Master Ninja again, because I don't play on lower settings anymore. And I was playing on Master Ninja and I was doing a challenge run. I think it was like no upgrades or something. And it was a ninja fight against Black Spider Clan ninjas. And I didn't just kill them, I styled on them. I did all sorts of weird shit just for fun. Like, do a hold Y combo to launch in the air and then jump up after them manually. Just fun shit. And I was like, I'm in control of this boss now, like, of this game. And that is such a cool feeling. Everything from, even the economy is cool, like the essence management, karma runs are cool. It's just a fantastic game. Ninja Gaiden 2 is the best, though. This is Ninja Gaiden 2. It's not 2004. 2004 is somewhere over here. We don't see 2004. Ninja Gaiden 2. Ninja Gaiden 2 is great. Objectively speaking, it should be here. Or maybe even below Black. Because Ninja Gaiden 2 is unfinished. It's a mess. For every good fight, there is a bad one. I remember I think it was Ziad on Twitter who said, like, this is the only game, like, where it can either be like, holy shit, this is the best shit I have ever played, and then the next minute you're playing is like, this is the hottest piece of garbage I've ever played. You can be in chapter 3 and be playing the Test of Valor, which is so challenging, and you got this adrenaline pumping, enemies that were cool music, it's fucking amazing, and then you got Gigadeath, like, right after. And Gigadeath's fucking awful. Nobody likes Gigadeath. Fuck Gigadeath. And you're just like, what the fuck is this? And then you got this weird water dragon boss fight, and you got a hallway of dogs, and all those dogs, fucking dogs. And then chapter 4 is just Vangel's Forever, which are fun, but also a bit one note. Then you got the werewolf stage. I mean, it's still cool, but it's okay. And then suddenly you're on an airship in the sky with tactical ninjas, and it's so cool. And it's like, oh my god, this game, Ninja Gaiden 2 is so good. The best thing about it, in my opinion, is the D-limb system. I think we've never seen anything like it in this level of complexity. Like, the way you change enemies by cutting off their limbs, making them either more passive, by, for example, you have an archer, and they'll respawn if they die. You just cut off their arms, and they're not an archer anymore. Now they're just walking around throwing a shuriken. Like, this level of enemy manipulation is unique. But I also love how aggressive you can be in this game. Like, Ryu is very mobile. He's very easy to control. There's still some ability to cancel from time to time. Like, you can do shuriken canceling, and you can cancel some animations earlier, like the counter from the Dragon Sword. But I also like how simple it is. Like, Ryu, it's not a complex character. You don't have all these styles, weapon styles, 50 plus weapons to control at the same time, and stances and God knows what. It's just, you've got Ryu. He's got a heavy attack, he's got a light attack, he's got a charge attack. The end. Oh, he's got a shuriken. That's it. And pair that with a lot of aggressive enemies and a dealing system, and you've got like, you can make one fight in this game with one enemy, and it will always be different. Whereas in a lot of games, when I replay the game, a lot of fights for me feel like I'm going through the motions, because I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly what I'm going to do. But the first fight in Ninja Gaiden 2, where you start off and that guy's immediately coming at you with the IS ninjas, it will always be different. Like, yeah, the barrel is there, you can cut it open and the essence comes out, but it's always different. Like, enemies will be in a different pattern, maybe a dealing will happen, maybe it won't, maybe you'll accidentally cut his head off. It's like, okay, well, he's dead. Okay. Like, anything can happen. It is so unique and special. You know what? Fuck it. Add row above. There you go. It's got its own tier. Like, Ninja Gaiden 2 is, by and large, like, it's avant-garde. Like, the shit it tries to pull, I love how crazy it gets, how little restraint it has, how where each designer would say, maybe we should do a bit less, or maybe we should make that move a bit more fair. Like, Team Ninja was like, add more, make them faster. Sir, right now we're doing a business meeting about incinerator shuriken ninjas. Right now they're throwing one shuriken. We're thinking maybe we should, how many times they should throw. Make them throw 6 at once. Like, that's the meeting. Like, you can see, like, fucking Itagaki coked out of his mind, drinking wine or whatever, beer probably, knowing him, drinking beer or whiskey. I think he's a whiskey man. He's probably a whiskey man. Drinking whiskey, like, snorting cocaine off of some hooker, and like, add 6 ninjas and make them throw 20 shurikens. And like, somewhere someone stopped him, like, sir, yeah, maybe not. Maybe we wanted people to finish the game, and obviously they didn't finish themselves because they all got fired. I got fired, like, half of them left. Itagaki basically got fired. It's such a shame we never got Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. Like, I know there's the mod, obviously, which is fantastic. But I really, really wish, and also for the developers, because there's a couple of interviews where they go, like, where Itagaki's asked literally about Gigadeath. Like, what the fuck was this? And he's like, yeah, we ran out of time. Like, it's so shitty that it's in there like this, but what can you do? So I really wish they finished it, but when it works, like when Ninja Gaiden 2 works, and you're in a fight, and you know what you're doing, and you're in control, and it's that constant back and forth between you and your enemy. I have never played anything like it. Anything in my library, nothing comes close to that feeling. Like, I'm still looking for games. Like, I'll sometimes say, like, yeah, not Woodlawn. So the Enders 2 has something like that. Vanquish has it. Shadows. They are shadows to Ninja Gaiden 2. It's so fucking good. I could talk about this game for a decade. So good. Razor's Edge is so difficult for me. Razor's Edge has, I'm going to put in B right now. I think it has the best combat system in terms of Ryu's mobility. Like Cicada Surge, the way you can cancel moves on landing. The hold moves is so brilliant that you can, for example, do XXY. So Ryu will do light, and then heavy. But then you can hold the attack down, so he'll go into a holding stance. And then you have so many options. You can go into an instant hold move, which is just a regular strong finisher. You can hold it down and hope that they'll do a red grab, so you can steal and bone them. Or you can hold it down longer, and it becomes an ultimate technique. So you suddenly have this entire branching path from your moveset, which is crazy. And some of these hold moves go into launchers again, and like you're basically going through this one long movement list chain until the end, which is dead enemies. It's like an infinite weapon string almost. It's so interesting, and the fact that you can go from OTs and UTs into this hold stance again, you're fucking good. It's a shame it's in this shitty game, because the levels are ass, the enemies are ass. Half the enemies don't even work with the systems. Like, they just slap Vangelfs in there. Like, still on button? What's that? Wasn't that the mechanic from that we use like temporarily? You know, something like that. Yeah, don't know. It feels complicated. Half the bosses don't even work, and it's still in B. You know, like, I almost want to put it here in A. Fuck it, I'm gonna put it in A. Like, this game is a patch for a shitty game that they made in like 6 months and sold at basically full price, and it's still better than half the games on this list, in my opinion. Like, it's crazy. Like, I know people always go like, oh, Platinum Games, Itsuno. Team Ninja, like, they're crazy. The shit that they do, the understanding that they have of combat mechanics and challenge, like how challenge builds up on combat mechanics, but also by not making them too complicated, which obviously, in my opinion, they did a bit too much with Wulong and Neo. Like, some of those a bit too complicated. But I'm fucking man, I can't. I sound like a drunkard. Maybe I put whiskey in here in my drink instead of water. But it's crazy to me how they made a game that was so I want to say garbage and barf, but so it became barfage. Like, it's so good. Like, this combat system is. I just wish it was in a good game. You know what other game has that problem? DMC4. I'm going to put it here. DMC4 is exactly the same for me. It is such a good combat system. Every time I play this game in like the Bloody Palace, like sometimes I'll just boot it up on my PS4 or PC. And I'll just play Bloody Palace with Nero or Dante or Trish or whatever. Fucking fun. Like, the way you can interact with enemies, the way you can seamlessly flow from one chain to the next. Obviously, there's the advanced tech as well. It's so interesting. And then I play the game and I'm like, fuck, this is so bad. I hate the stages. I don't like the bosses. Most of them are just, in my opinion, what I like to call the floating hitbox, with very little interaction. But the characters are so cool to control. Like, they could re-release this game in a big gray box, and there's just one enemy, and you still have the characters, and it would still be an A or B for me, just based on how well the characters control. I think Nero is definitely the biggest loser of the bunch. I know back at the time, like, there was this big discourse of God of War is the big player to beat. I remember Itsuno and Itagaki both also noting, like, okay, God of War 3, that's competition. Holy shit, what are we going to do about that? And you can see the influences, like with the Savior fight and everything. And Nero's Devilbringer is basically a really weird interpretation of Kratos. At least that's how I always envisioned. That's how it was always communicated to me. But I don't feel he adds what Kratos has. I always felt like he should at least be able to use his grab to throw enemies into each other or do something with it. But it's really just a grab. You grab him and you smack him down. There's not even really collision detection or anything. There's collision detection. There's no collision damage, or at least nothing substantial. For me, the most interesting character, ironically, to play with is Trish, again. I really like that lightning jump she did. That you had these lightning arcs you can make, and then throw enemies in them, throw your sword in them, make all these weird combinations. I felt that was a really cool idea. Like, you can make an entire game based around that. But yeah, the biggest weakness I feel this game has is its breadth of characters and lack of content around it. When I remember when Special Edition was announced, I was really hoping, like, okay, the big problem with the original game was you had 2 playable characters, but shitty stages. So I was really hoping, like, this is going to be like a remake. They're really going to focus on more stages. And instead they added more characters. And the same stages. I was like, the fuck's wrong with you guys? It just felt so out of place. Then we got Devil May Cry 5. Oh, this is going to be interesting. This is where I die. Are you ready? Where the fuck am I going to put this? It's going in the bottom of B. I don't like... I'm sorry. Like everything this game tries to accomplish for me fails. And the reason for that is... Like, DMC4 has a great combat system, you know? I don't see DMC3 in here, by the way. DMC3 is an S. Like, it's together with DMC1. Like, it's great. I can talk about that game in a second. But 5 for me does nothing that it should have done. Like, you have 4, and 4 was this great potential game, like great characters stuck in a shitty game. Now you had the chance, okay, let's streamline it a bit more. Like, we got 2 characters again, Nero and Dante, that's fine. But we're gonna make the game laser focused. We're gonna have unique stages for them. We're gonna have unique enemies for them. Because one of the bigger problems that you're gonna have, the more characters you have, your enemies are just gonna be generic blobs. Because you can't have enemies that really work with specific things that these characters do. Because, well, at the end of the day, the enemies can't really interact with you. Because you've got so many different characters that play differently. So, like, for example, you can't make an enemy. One of the original leaks of the game, which was obviously fake, was that Dante's styles would influence enemies as well. So if you went to Swordmaster, enemies would be more close combat focused. So you would also style switch your enemies. It's a weird idea, and I'm not sure if it would even work, but it's a cool idea. And it's a cool idea that could only exist if that enemy was specifically designed for Dante. That's not the case right now, because you've got, like in DMC4, you've got like 5 characters. So you can't make a character like that specifically plays into your player character, because there's so many of them. So I was hoping, like with DMC5, my wish list was laser focused enemies that really designed around the characters. Redo Dante. Like DMC4 Dante was really cool, but it also felt like they just slapped them together. Like, okay, we got DMC3 Dante where the styles were made for specific play styles. So you got Gunslinger, Swordmaster, and everything. But in 4, a lot of things felt pointless. Like, why is the charge shot behind Gunslinger? Can't I just hold square? Why do I need to be in that style? Because it was more like a convoluted way to get to your bigger moveset. Like, half the moves did not have to be locked behind the style. I'm pretty sure if you really stretch your imagination and go into a control scheme setup, you can find a way to completely remove Swordmaster and Gunslinger with just specific inputs. And you notice this in DMC5 as well, because half of Gunslinger's moves don't need to be in Gunslinger. I think with the Catalina on, he even only has like 1 regular move, and the rest of them are in Gunslinger. Like, why? Why can't it just be a back-forward input with the gun motion? So I really had hope, like, okay, let's... Royal Guard doesn't need to be an entire style either. It could just be one button. With regular being block, and then you got the forward. Dodge can also be a button. I really hope that the styles would be like these unique new features, and it says just the same shit all over again. I like the new weapons. I think they look cool. But yeah, for me it was like, it was way too safe. Like they were like, okay, let's just do DMC4 again. Ironically, the only part where I felt like they experimented was V. But V suffered because Astral Chain came out pretty soon after, which was a complete game focused on that element. And V again suffered from the fact that he's in a game where he's fighting enemies that are not designed to work with him. They were designed to work with Dante and Nero. So yeah, everything this game does fell flat for me. Didn't even have a bloody palace at launch. There's no unlockable costumes that are not, and with costumes, I mean costumes, not fucking Black Dante costume with white hair, black hair. Like, that's just a recolor. It was such a disappointment for me, this game. From the level design, I think the bosses were cool. I think the plot was cool, even though it was a basic retread. They're obviously never going to stick with that ending. But yeah, everything this game does for me was a disappointment. And that's not to even, notwithstanding like that they removed a lot of advanced tech and everything. Just as an entire visionary project for me, it felt like it was really missing like that drive. Okay, we're back and we're gonna go crazy with it. It did not have that feeling at all. Ninja Blade. I think this is a C game. Played this game a long time ago. I remember liking the combat. I remember liking the set pieces. It just wasn't really well made. This is really from the time From Software just made a lot of weird ass games. I like that you could customize the ninja as much as you could. A lot of combat encounters were fun. But I also feel a lot of this game was just really unmemorable for me. Didn't really have anything unique to it that really made me go like, okay, this is really super cool. Goes in there. Devil's Third. I think also C. Like, Devil's Third is a shitty game, but it's a shitty game with some cool ideas. And I think those cool ideas elevated beyond D. It's a game I can replay, and it's a game that really, for me, was a breath of fresh air at the time when it released. At that time, I was really bummed out by a lot of games, so I bought this game. And it really was... It's bad, it's unfinished, it's laggy. A lot of the mechanics don't even work properly. But it has a lot of heart and soul. And I think if you really play it well, in the sense that you... Like, there's this... How to put it? There's a moment in the game where you have a couple of fights. And when it works, it really fucking works. Like, there's a... I still remember a moment, like, you're in a combat arena. I shoot a guy with a shotgun. I slice the guy up next to him with my katana. I grab the katana, throw it in the guy behind me before he can flank me, and I throw a grenade, and everything just explodes, and I stand there looking like a badass. Like that. This is a game that allows that, but half the time the enemies just are so bullet spongy, so durable, and bullets kill you so fast that melee is basically not an option. It's just unbalanced and unfinished. I heard the multiplayer is super good. And could easily have been the next generation, years ahead of its time, but being stuck on the platform obviously never took off. So yeah, I just want to say again, like Devil May Cry 5, it's not a bad game. Like it's still in B, which stands for beautiful. But I think it was a really big disappointment for me. I might even you know what? Fuck you guys. It's going in C. I don't think it's beautiful. I think it's cool ideas. But it could have been so much more. I'm sorry, I wanted to talk about Devil's Third, but I just got to talk about DMC5 for a little bit. I just wish this game was so much more. I really hope that because of its success, now with DMC6, if it ever comes, they'll really take risks and do new things and do them properly. Not like Bayonetta 3, but do them properly. But yeah, Devil's Third for me, and it's also... personally, a very important game for me because of this game, I started Stinger Magazine. Without this one, Stinger Magazine would not exist. Because I was so frustrated by the reviews at the time that were ditching this game, not for the valid reasons, but it's laggy. This doesn't work as I thought it would. Like, the game had legitimate faults, and nobody pointed them out because they were just going like, "Oh, ugly game's ugly." So yeah, fucking hate that. What the hell? Okay, I don't know this game. Let me see. Wanted Dead. Also in C. I think Wanted Dead. Now I feel bad about DMC5. Like, it's obviously so much better than this game. Okay, it's back in D. Back in B. Wanted Dead. It's a shitty game. But again, just like Devil's Third, when it works, it works. But it feels like a prototype. It feels unfinished. Like, it has this great idea of mixing shooting with melee combat. And when it works, it really works. But it rarely does. And it's really short. It doesn't have a lot. It has like 2 enemy types, basically. 3. If we're being generous, 4. But one thing I really like about this game is how open it is. Like, for example, there's a ninja enemy, and you can feel from the game design that they want you to parry that guy. So you do the parry a couple of times, then he opens up, you do your finishing strike, and he's dead. Cool. You could also just say, fuck it, run away from him, and shoot him with your gun until he drops dead. Or you can know where he spawns, throw 2 grenades, walk a step, he spawns in 2 grenades, he just blows the fuck up. Like, in a lot of modern games, you would feel that if you shoot at him, he would do like, and grab the bullets. Or when he gets the grenades, he'll do an automatic jump over them and stuff, because you gotta parry him. That's the way we want you to kill him. They don't fucking care. They're like, here's a guy, these are the tools. You want to kill him? You want to kill him the lame way? Fucking go ahead. We don't care. And I like that idea. But it's also too unresponsive. Like, you need to do a wacky block cancel to go from an attack into a shotgun shot. And even when you do that, when you attack him and you block cancel, sometimes you'll just be aiming at the sky and you've got to manually go there. The guy's already gone. He killed you. It's so shitty, but it has heart, and I have enjoyed it. Prince Persia, Warrior Within. A tier. This game is a personal favorite of mine. I replayed it recently. Gameplay is still really good. I like the grab system a lot, like how you can grab enemies, and from the grab you have so many things you can do. Like you can push into other enemies or off the wall. You can jump off of them because there's an enemy behind you, so you can jump off them over the other enemy and chop them up. You can strangle them for damage. You can disarm them, take their weapon. This game has such a great flow between your 2 stances of dual wielding and single wielding, because when you single wield you can grab, when you dual wield you have more damage output, but you can also throw the weapon, which is a pretty long stun. It's so fun. Platforming is great too. I know a lot of people say like, oh, the platforming took a dive here. Are you blind? Like, the game has so much more platforming in the sense of time, so much more challenging platforming. Really good game. Ninja Warriors, once again, A rank as well. Super good. I'm getting a bit tired of talking, so I'm just going to put it here and say like it's super good. There are many players that know a lot more about this game than me, but yeah, super good. Sifu S. This is one of the modern classics. I think it's one of the only games of the current gen paired with Astral Chain that's in S. The rest of them are mostly PlayStation 2 era games. But yeah, this game is super good. I like the freedom it has. Originally speaking, I didn't get it. Like, I was just using the same move over and over again and winning. But once you get into this flow state of going from one enemy to the next, using your specific hitboxes to avoid attacks instead of dodging, all the random elements from the combat, from the enemies going Super Saiyan, to the weapons you have, to the modifiers you can activate, to the stage challenges that you have, to master difficulty that is now added as well, where enemies are more aggressive. This game has no ceiling. Like, you can challenge yourself into infinity and beyond. Right now I'm not playing it anymore because I'm waiting for the Xbox version because I want to play it on that system. But it's a game that will keep on giving. And with the free updates, like, I can play this game for the rest of my life. It's so good. The style is great. The music is great. Even the sound effects, even though they're a bit subdued, are great. The fact that you can use environmentals like chairs to knock them into enemies. So good. Definitely play it if you haven't. I know a lot of people haven't played this one yet. Definitely do it. It's one of my personal favorites. On to the last couple. I know I still need to talk about Ninja Gaiden 3, but yeah, Ninja Gaiden 3 is in here. I think Ninja Gaiden 3 is a really excellent game that combines the efficiency elements of the original with the style of the next. I like how weighty Dante is in that game. Like, when you jump, he falls like a sack of bricks. I like how the enemies, even though they suck in general, how aggressive they are. It really feels like these enemies at least try to kill you. And as a result, when you style on them, it feels earned. You feel like you're rewarded for your work by being able to style on them. I think DMC3 is, and it's also packed with content. It's such a good game. It's in the S rank. Rise, Son of Rome. This is a C game. Maybe, nah, it's not D. Like, D is bad. Like, C is just interesting. Rise, Son of Rome was a fun game for me. It's like DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, where you're constantly chaining specific attacks and specific counters. But it had a nice flow to it. It looked beautiful. It had a pretty decent story with a fun ending. And it was a game that I just enjoyed from start to finish. I think this is a really good combination of cinematic and action gameplay. So yeah, I think it's a really fun game. Don't really have a lot of other things to say about it. I wrote an article about it a while ago, but generally speaking, really good. Now we come to Kingdom Hearts. Fuck my life. This is going to be interesting. Before we start with Kingdom Hearts, God Hand is also on this. Obviously, like, God Hand is one of the best. Alright, Kingdom Hearts 1. Fuck my life. I really don't know. I'm going to put it temporarily in S. Kingdom Hearts 1 I love because it's not just an action game, it's a game. It's a game with great exploration. It's a game with great simple story that uses memorable characters, interesting characters, and characters that you've already known to grow and love. The levels are confusing as fuck, but they're fun to explore. There's so many hidden secrets, especially in the Mad Hatter stage. I just called it Mad Hatter. Alice in Wonderland. Like, there's so many hidden secret chests and everything that you can find. The combat system is simple yet really elegant in what you can do with it. Like, just by changing a couple of rings in your inventory, you can become a completely different character build. I like gravity well with what it can do in terms of percentage-based damage. I like how epic it gets at the end. It's just a timeless adventure. Like, this game, when I play it, I laugh, I have fun, I explore. The combat might not be the deepest around, but it still is. Like, the way you can slash to counter enemy attacks with technical points, the revenge value that you have on enemies, like Riku. From combining all the abilities, like, to make your perfect setup, all the spells that you can use, and how even the spell system, how it balances it, because you got the mana, but you can also attack when your mana bar is full to fill like the attack gauge, and use that to cast. So there's a great balance in there, because if you have a longer magic gauge, you can mostly only use mana, because your attacks don't fill it up all the way very fast for a free cast. But if you have small gauge, you only have 3 mana, so you can cast a lot. For the melee, you can cast a lot. There's so many little intricate systems. They even make grinding interesting. Like in the remix version, like there's a lot of hidden enemies in the end game that give you special materials. And these enemies don't appear anywhere else in the game. They're just there for grinding. I don't know any game that does that. The more I talk about it, this is an S. It's a timeless classic for me. I think one of the best games I've played. It's super good. Kingdom Hearts 2. No, I'm not doing that. I don't hate you guys that much. But it's going in C. I don't like Kingdom Hearts 2. Going back to that video where Biden is talking to Trump, and Trump goes like, the whole point is to fight bosses. And it does feel that way. Like, every time I talk to people about Kingdom Hearts 2, and they're probably screaming in the background now, so I can already hear them in the distance. When people like talk about Kingdom Hearts 2, they talk about the boss fights, they talk about Lingering Will, they talk about datas, and all that sort of shit. But I never hear anybody talking about like, oh man, I really liked that Mulan world, or I really liked Beast's Castle. Oh man, yeah, I really fucking loved going through Hollow Bastion again. That was so much fun. Oh yeah, that was, like, nobody's talking about any about the regular fights except the Thousand Harvests, which was really cool. It's the perfect middle point. But that was a cool segment. But none of the fights or bosses do anything for me. Like, they're not that interesting. The levels are just bland hallways with no elevation, no level design whatsoever. There's no hidden collectibles. It's just nothing. It really feels like busy work between boss fights. And I'm sure that once you get through all the busy works, like, it's a great game. But that's like telling me, like, at least Ninja Gaiden 2, when it's shitty, there's something good at the other end. So you got stage 1, which is great, and 2 is great, and then 3 is trash. But this is like, you got fucking 20 fights against Gigadeath, and then you get to stage 11 from Ninja Gaiden 2. That's Kingdom Hearts 2 for me. I literally kid you not, the best thing that I had in this game so far is the gummy ship missions. And yes, I can hear you people saying like, oh, but did you play on level 1 playthrough? Did you play on critical? Yes, I played level 1 crit. Still did not enjoy it. Well, that actually rhymes. But yeah, I did not enjoy it. I first did a standard run. I beat it, didn't like it. Then I did crit. Got until past 1000 Heartless. Quit, and then did level 1 run. And I still don't get it. I fought Lingering Will. Fucking cool fight. But it's not enough to carry an entire game for me. You know? Like, that's a great fight that you can make a separate save file for and just beat him and play him over and over again. Go into the intricacies of that fight. And if you like that, that's great. But I don't like that. Like, I want a whole experience. And for me, that is this. And then you'll probably say, well, what about Astral Chain? You just say it's ass. Astral Chain, when you replay it with all the tools, it's fantastic. You know? So yeah, for me, this game, I'm sorry, I just didn't think it was very good. What I did think is very good is Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 for me feels like the fusion between everything that's good about 1 and everything that's good about 3. Its levels are way more compactly designed. I liked how a couple of older abilities are now more standard. Like you can more easily do air combos and keep going. I like how they brought back elemental weaknesses for a lot of fun stuff. Just chaining all those super forms together is so fun. Even the food buffs are like a nice little way for you to customize yourself and be prepared for specific encounters. Yeah, I really like this game. If you can't tell, like it's right now there are 2 games that I really want to replay, and one of them is Lost Odyssey on the Xbox, and one of them is Kingdom Hearts 3, and one of them is Uncharted 4. But Kingdom Hearts 3, every time I see footage of it, like, there's so much you can do in that game. But the main content is also interesting. I know a lot of people like the data fights, the DLC. I don't really care for them that much. I know there's a lot of fun to be had exploring like the super detailed, intricate boss design that they did there, which I think is phenomenal. Like, every one of those boss fights is like I almost want to say like a game of itself. Like, it's fucking impressive, but it doesn't appeal to me personally. Like, I'm more of a guy that I'm about I want to say the little fights, like against the regular enemies, and the exploration in between, and the whole game itself. And I think that is just so good in Kingdom Hearts 3. And there's elevations again. Like I said, elemental weaknesses are back, so you're using wind magic on specific enemies, get them in a whirlwind, and then do use a specific super attack when they're stuck in the whirlwind. Like, there's so many combinations possible. If there was one complaint I had, it's that a lot of the stuff is hidden behind the meter you need to fill. But even then, like, nothing compares to, like, there's this boss later on in the Monster Inc. world. It's like a giant blob, and it's weak to ice. And I remember I went into that fight the first time. It took really long, it didn't go very well. So then I got back into it with the rocket launcher being at the ready, and I farmed out 4 Blizzagas because I got a food that I ate that gave me more Blizzagas, or Blizzadas, or Blizzazas, I don't know, but it's a super blizzard spell. And I go into the rocket form, and I just wait for him to open up, go in rocket form, and just nuke like 4 of those Blizzazas in his face, and he's dead. And then you can say, but that's the RPG element. Yeah. And I think one of the things I really like about Kingdom Hearts 1 and 3 is that it's action RPG. Like, it has those 2 things in almost equal measure, but the RPG element is a bit more big. And Kingdom Hearts 2 is RPG action. And if I want to play that, I'll just play an action game. And I think Kingdom Hearts 3 really hones in on this. Like, this is only something you can get here. Maybe that's the reason, but I really like 3 for that reason. So yeah, that was my tier list. Overall, pretty much what I expected. I'm not really sure why I put DMC5 every time. Like, I look at it, I keep down, like, should I put it here, should I put it here, should I put it here. Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. Like, like I said, this is a game about personal enjoyment as well. So some games are higher than they should be. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent list. You can definitely see I'm a fanboy of Team Ninja. I mean, I'm not ashamed of that. That's nothing to be ashamed about. And I'm a big fanboy about Mikami. Resident Evil 4 is also going to be an S tier if it counts as an action game. Anyway, I got a fucking sore throat from talking so long because I never really talked this long. I hope you guys got some insight in what I think about action games, what I like about action games, what my preferences are. In general, what I think I can already say is like I really like it when a game is more about the regular enemies than the bosses. And about the pressure in those engagements. I like high difficulty. I like being challenged. I like being pushed forward. And the games that are in the S tier right now, they do that for me. You know, there are games that every time I boot them up, I'll find a new challenge and something new to enjoy. And the enemies really push me forward to be a better player. Games in A are just classics that I enjoy. Games that are really good, but in some cases less as S. The B games are literally that. They're beautiful, they're great, but I would rather play these. Like God for Free, standalone is fucking great. Such a good game. But I could also play God of War 1, you know? So there's that. I still think Onimusha 2 I would like the most if I really actually put time into it. Doom Eternal, I might, you know what? Fuck Doom Eternal. It's going into C. Bye. And Killer is Dead is, yeah, Killer is Dead's good where it is. Rise, like I said, it's just a fun game, nothing too special. Castlevania, same. Wonderful 101, I might actually put in D because I just do not like this game. Bottom of C. Because if I put it in D, then I immediately say it's like these games, and that's not like that. Definitely not. Like, it might even go in B because it's just such a good game, but I don't like it. Like, that's so double, like, I know it's a good game, but I just don't like playing it. DMC, yeah, makes sense. Darkstriders. I think we got a pretty decent list. Like, Wanted Dead, I kind of want to put it in a tier higher. Like, this is the downside of tier lists. Because Wanted Dead for me is better than Devil's Third, so I want to put it here. But then immediately it's in the tier of Devil May Cry 5, which makes no sense for me. So I'll put it here. Like, it's definitely a lot better than Devil's Third. It grew on me a lot. Originally speaking, I like Devil's Third more. But Wanted Dead it's grown on me. I hope the patch that they announced is going to fix a lot of the technical issues. But I also hope they add something like a mission select or something. Because stage 4 and 5 are a lot of fun in that game. And I just want to play those again. But there's no stage select. So I'm not going to sit through stage 1 and 2 again. Because those are garbage. Yeah, this all makes sense. So in the end, there's one fucking garbage. Don't like it. God of War Ascension just pisses me off. So, Sengoku Kunoichi. DMC 2, like I said, I think it's undervalued for the fun stuff it does have that should have been in future games. And some of it was, but yeah. Alright, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to also talk about these games, sort of gush about them. Thanks again to Zero for making the list. Next time, add God Hand. And maybe the Sigma games. Yeah, that would make it even more complicated. Like, where the fuck am I going to put Sigma 1? It's probably going to be somewhere in B. No idea. Anyway, I said anyway like 15 times already because I'm really bad at closing off videos. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. If there's any other like video like this you want me to do in the future, please let me know. And yeah, talk to you guys soon.